In today's Student Success Series interview, I have Ananya, a graduate of University of the Arts London in Interior and Spatial Design. Hi Ananya, thank you so much for being on the Student Success Series interview with me. When you first started applying to college, why did you choose to go to England in the first place? Why did you want to go there?
I think for me, it was the process of elimination. So the US was too far, so that option was out. And then it narrowed down to England, and then there was Singapore as another option because they are fairly closer to India. And then once that happened, I started looking at universities that had my course and that had the reputation as well. So Singapore was La Salle that I was looking at, and then London was University of the Arts London. And I think the reason for that was I had a lot of my seniors from school and some of my closest friends who were my batchmates who went to University of the Arts London. So I had heard a lot from them. I'd seen their kind of work. I had a very slight glimpse, but a more personal glimpse into the way the university works. And I think that's what caught my attention.
Wow, that's really nice that you had people on campus who could give you that first-hand information of how the campus is going to look like and what it's going to be. But what was it actually for you? Did it turn out to be how you had envisioned it when you went to study there?
It was slightly different because I did expect a slightly bigger campus, but then once I moved here, I realized that in London as a city, it's more buildings and blocks, but the minute you step out, then you have the whole campus life. So that was, I knew it, but I didn't know it would be this small. So I think that was a little bit of a surprise. But otherwise, what I had been told is what I had received. I think it was just what I didn't expect was the amount of self-learning that we have to do, and that you really need to be motivated at all times and take a lot of initiatives yourself. And that was something that I wasn't used to at all studying in India all of those years.
Right.
So I think that aspect took me some time to take up initiatives on my own, to find the motivation to go to the library, pick up books, and then sort of make art from that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a different system of studies in England. And I think everywhere when you go to study abroad, because in India, you're told exactly what you have to do. And this is how you need to study. And these are the books. But then when you go to study abroad, it's a completely different atmosphere altogether. Okay. And going back to more of your classroom experience itself, given that you're studying interiors and architecture, how has that been for you in terms of the course itself? Have you liked your professors, and how is it structured for an undergraduate program?
So in terms of my professors, I had really good professors who are in the field and who also work and teach. So there was a good mix of learning from them academically, but also from their professional experience,
right?
Which is obviously a bonus.
Yeah.
And in terms of working, in the first year, you often put in a lot of group projects. So you don't feel very overwhelmed because of the amount of new things you learn. And B, that's a great way to socialize and get to know your course mates better because you're going to be with them for the next 2 years as well. So a lot of our work was group work, but then again, we were also given individual projects. So in a year, we submit about 4 projects.
Okay.
One is written for us, and the others are all practical work that we've done over a couple of months, and then they are submitted either as a physical document or an online document.
Nice.
And that system followed through in the second and third year, where second year was it was more individualistic projects with 1 or 2 group projects, and the third year was completely individual because that's your final year and you get to choose your own project as well. You're not given a brief from the tutors. You get to choose what you want to do throughout the whole year, which is great.
Wow, yeah, that's a really big thing because then it's full autonomy for you to do whatever you like and what you want, and explore something you probably wouldn't have otherwise. So
yeah, and through the 3 years, you of course have personal tutors and tutorials where you do work and then you show it to them, and there's like a feedback session or a critique where they tell you this works, this doesn't work, what can be done, what needs to be changed. And then in the third year, we have to write a dissertation, which is what happens in most universities in England, I believe. and that's about 7,000 word to 10,000 word
outside of your classes and outside of your course itself, in terms of accommodation, finding the roommates, finding things like, I think those are some of the concerns that current Indian students would probably have before actually going there. So how was that experience for you?
My university fortunately offers accommodation.
Okay.
So I select, and we could apply through that. We could apply to 5 options and give it as per your order of preference. So I did that, and I luckily got into my first preference. And I didn't get to choose. So in this system, you don't get to choose flatmates. You sort of get whoever has been assigned. Exactly. And then again, I was fortunate that I got really clean people, very warm and welcoming. So it's not like I became best friends with them. That didn't happen, but it was cordial while we were there, and there was casual interaction, discussing our work every now and then. So it was pleasant. There was no problem at all, because there have been cases where some people get really dirty flatmates.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you get stuck with someone like that, it's so difficult to do anything else, studying or, having a good, mental space to actually do anything. If your roommates aren't good, then it's going to really affect you.
Exactly. So that way I was lucky in the first year with accommodation, and then the second year I made friends in my accommodation building itself, and then we moved into a flat, the three of us.
Oh, nice.
So that's how that was.
Really nice.
Yeah.
So you had in terms, experience of living on campus as well as off campus. So
yeah. So only the first year I lived on campus, and then the remaining 3 I was off campus. To answer the first part of your question, which was life outside of university, and as someone who visited London for the first time, I absolutely loved it. There was so much to see. There are so many museums, art exhibitions, parks, which is such a luxury here if you compare it to back home. And I think for me that was absolutely amazing, because before that I had never spent as much time with myself exploring. It was always me or my friends or my family. And here I got the chance to just go on my own, get on the bus, get off somewhere, and sort of see what that place has to offer. And I think for me that was very liberating and empowering in a way. So London has a lot to offer. You'll be confused what to do, because there's so much to do.
For you as a student, what has really worked for you? Like your top 3 things that you would really recommend for success on campus for Indian students going to study abroad?
I would just say, don't be scared to ask for help. You don't have to do everything on your own. There are people and there are specialists that can help you and make you better or improve your work. So definitely don't hesitate and shamelessly ask. That's one thing. Make friends with groups of people who are not just from your community or country, because you get such a global experience. You learn so much about their cultures, which you can even apply in your projects. You never know how useful that might be. So put yourself out there in that sense. It can be overwhelming. It's a little scary. I was scared too. But it pays off, because then you form such a big community outside of your country. And when you come back, you have all of these people to meet, and that's a great feeling. So I would say that. And I think the other one would be a little planned with your time and work, because over here it's very easy to get carried away with either. You either just can keep working, or you either can just be out and about. So it's important to have sort of a good balance. And that is something I still need to implement. That is something I'm still finding my way through. But on the days that I have made a plan and had a planner, it really helps. So yeah, I would also say have a planner. I think it's so important to either have a digital one or a physical one, whatever you prefer. But I think these are the 3 things I would say.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, absolutely, with the planner, I think it really tells you what you need to do and helps you assign even time, okay, there are classes and courses, but there is also time to socialize or to work out or to do things, which if you are always studying or you haven't planned it out, then you can't go to the events on campus or can't be part of the things that you might actually will help you in internships or jobs or anything otherwise
Absolutely,
also.
yeah.
So
I
yeah.
mean, because we come to study abroad even just for the experience, right? It's not always about the academics. Of course,
Yes.
that's a huge part,
Yeah.
but the other major part is also to learn and adapt and to grow as a person. I think you gain so much independence, and you'd be surprised of how much you can do actually.
Yes, absolutely. Once you get there, then you are, fully autonomous with your day and your time, and there is so much freedom,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
isn't accorded in India. So because you're living with
yeah. Like
parents or you're at
something is
home, yeah.
home, yeah. Something like going to a bank in India, often, at least for me, I didn't have to do it as much because things were taken care of.
Yes.
But here, you've got to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so,
going
you
back
learn
to
much.
exactly this, in terms of the challenges that you faced as an Indian student in particular, having our kind of life in India where things are taken care of, how was it for you? Like, what were the, let's say, the major top 2 or 3 challenges that you faced when you first went to England?
I think one of them would be precisely this, that I have to do everything on my own.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that was something I never had to do before. So that again took me some time to really understand. There would be times that I would get really anxious, like going to a bank or calling people on the phone if something is not working. So I think that took me a little bit of time, but then you learn because there is nobody else but you to do. So I think it was the fact that everything had to be done by me, was a little challenging at first. The second would be the weather, especially because I come from Chennai, where I do not have any sort of winter.
Yes.
And that really, really affected me because for a couple of months here, the sun sets at about 3, 4. And that really took a toll on me. So I think that was a little difficult. And the other thing I think would be just adapting to a different lifestyle over there. I think it's so new. I mean, yes, of course, you form your own routine, but in the beginning, to sort of understand the travel routes, planning your day, because you primarily use public transport here,
Yeah.
and how
We're
to
not
organize
alone.
exactly, which we don't do as much. So how you sort of organize your day with regard to that, and I think just balancing everything, because it was my first time in London. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to see everything, but you realize that you need to pick and choose
Right?
what is actually worth your time. So I think those were a few challenges for me. And then again, making a strong set of friends. That takes a bit of time. And I first was convinced I'm not going to make any friends, but that obviously did not happen. So I think it was these things that were a bit challenging.
And how has this changed now? Like, how do you feel now, having spent those 3 years in London, the before and after of Ananya? How has it been for you?
It's been great. Even I'm surprised, like I was telling you earlier, with how much I can do. I think now I'm quite confident of getting from A to B place, interacting with people, or even just making small talk when necessary. And if I do need to do anything, or if I do need to call and need some help, I'm okay doing that. There isn't that sort of sense of fear or anxiety that was there earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I feel a lot more confident as a person, and just seeing the growth process through the 3 years. I think it makes you feel really nice.
Okay. And going back to your, experience as an Indian student on campus in England, was there something that you really wish that you knew before you actually went to study abroad, which you probably haven't mentioned before? But is there something that you wish, like someone I wish told me this before I went to study abroad?
I think the amount of research and the self-initiated work that I have to do, I had no idea that that's what it's going to be like, where you will have classes only about 2 or 3 times a week for a couple of hours, and the rest of the day is for you to decide what you want to do. And that to me I was like, okay, I caught myself in a catch-22 situation, and I was like, how do I go on? Because I do want to go out, but I know I need to work on the weekdays.
Right.
So that was something I wish someone had told me, that the amount and the importance of research has been given to. So much time and effort goes into that, and that again was something that I just wasn't used to as much. So yeah, that would be something.
Okay. And any last pieces of advice for any students who are now coming to England or have just landed in England for this year, whether they're in London or anywhere around England, any piece of advice from you for them?
I would say don't be scared to put yourself out there. You will be surprised at how many opportunities can come your way. Don't be scared to ask for help. And just have fun, be open-minded, don't try and stick to groups, interact, mingle with people. There's so much the city has to offer, so take advantage of it. And keep a good relationship with your tutors, I would say. It really helps. Even if you don't study with them any longer after the first or second year, it's always good to keep in touch because you can always go to them for help. And just keep them updated about your progress because they would also love to know. And yeah, that's I would say. And don't get overwhelmed on certain days. It's okay if you didn't get some work done, and you weren't able to do something that you had set out for the way it should be. It happens to all of us. Mm-hmm. So don't be very hard on yourself. It's a learning process. We all fall, but we also stand up and then move on. So don't stay stagnant if something hasn't gone your own way.
All right.
The best works out always.
Thank you. That was really, really helpful and really nice to know. Absolutely, I agree with you on that. Like, we have to give ourselves that permission to learn and explore and understand a new place. And we kind of beat ourselves up as soon as we land that we should know everything and we should be aware of every single thing before we actually reach there. Whereas that isn't the case, it's not going to happen. So we are learning and giving ourselves that time to learn and adjust is important to understand.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much, Ananya. Thank you so much for all of your insights today in this interview. And thank you so much for being here with me. And best of luck for everything that you have in the future as well.
Thank you, Ananya. This was great talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.